Now I have looked at the rear brakes, and I don't know what kind of alchemy it takes to get the rear calipers off, but I'm going to have a good hard look and figure it out, because right now it's not immediately obvious how the calipers come off, and the workshop manual says I've got to take the axle out and press the calipers off the hub after I take the wheel studs off. I really hope that's wrong, because that sounds like a shop job to me. But I have the parts. 2 sets of dimpled and slotted rotors and 2 sets of general purpose pads. So after fruitlessly trying to pull the pads and rotors out of the back of my XC Falcon last weekend as per the manual, by undoing this rear hub here and trying to take the caliper sliders out, I gave up and I went to the drawing board to do some research, and as it turns out I appear to have an XF rear disc brake assembly in my car, because while I was Google searching for XF slide pins, I found some pictures and they matched the ones that I had on my diff, and I thought to myself, maybe they'll just undo, since they're actually a threaded slide pin. So the conclusion that I drew was that once those slide pins came out, I'd get the caliper off, and then the disc hat would come right off too, because it's retained by a retaining screw into the axle housing, unlike the XC diff, which has everything press fitted on once you pull the axle out. Thankfully, this isn't how this diff assembly works, so once the caliper comes off, the pads and rotor are easy enough to change. But the problem I have now is the pads and rotors I ordered for my XC diff will not fit this XF axle carrier. So now I've got to go and swap those for the XF rear disc brake assembly parts. The pads are different, the hat's a different height for the rotor, so hopefully I'll get onto that this week. Quick update, I've just got a call from the brake and clutch place that are reconditioning my XF Falcon calipers, and they're ready for me to pick up. That's good news. So plan to go get them immediately, so I can put the car back together this weekend, put the rear pads and rotors in, maybe even put the wheels back on. And the reason I'm getting the calipers rebuilt is because my handbrake lever kept seizing on whenever I put the handbrake on, forcing me to use a hammer to disengage them. That's a common problem with that Ford handbrake design, so I decided that since the calipers are off, because there was a snapped off bleed nipple on one of the calipers, I would get them rebuilt while I was at it, just so I would have a clean slate and I'd improve my chances of getting a handbrake that actually works. So that's where I'm at with that. I have all my parts to do the conversion. I swapped my XC pads and rotors for XF items on Monday, so it should be all good to go. Hopefully go to plan. Bleed up my brakes. I broke one of my kids into that to help bleed everything up, and I should be able to get the car off the axle stands for the first time in months. Pretty exciting. That update. Here we are at home with my freshly rebuilt XF Ford Falcon calipers. 2 bleed nipples. Apparently they had to re-sleeve one of the calipers to get it to work properly again, and hopefully they give me a handbrake and trouble-free motoring. day I'm going to install them. That's the right hand side rotor pads and caliper reinstalled. I finagled that a little bit so I could reuse it because I had to use an easy out to get that off in the first place. And since these aren't readily available, I'll repurpose this one with a slot I've cut in it with a grinder. So hopefully one day I'll need to undo that again and it'll come right off. Either I can just stick an easy out back into it. There you have it, caliper, rotor, pads reinstalled, everything's reattached. What I have to do now is bleed the brake system. So I'm probably going to have to start from this corner, which is the furthest away from the master cylinder, and work my way around the car.
I don't think I'll be able to skid it. It's too hyped. Whoa.